हेलो एंड वेलकम एवरीवन टू द डेली न्यूज एनालिसिस ऑफ 10th ऑफ अक्टूबर 2023। तो आज के इम्पोर्टेंट आर्टिकल्स इतने सारे हैं, पहले वन बाय वन देख लेते हैं। Israel imposes total siege on Gaza, death account rises. Claudine Goldin wins 2023 Economics Nobel Prize for research on workplace gender gap, mental health, and the flourishing informal worker. Then the end of the two-state solution, the state of India's scheduled areas, what is multimodal artificial intelligence and why is it important, smart fence along Myanmar border in the pipeline, government pays, urban unemployment rate drops to 6.6% क्वार्टर वन का 6.6% ड्रॉप हुआ है। श्रीलंका टू टेक ओवर एज चेयर ऑफ इंडियन ओशन ड्रीम एसोसिएशन। चलिए देखते हैं पहला है इजराइल इम्पोजेस टोटल सीज ऑन गाजा, डेथ काउंट राइजेस। Israel imposed a total siege on Gaza Strip on Monday and cut off the water supply as it kept bombing targets in the crowded Palestinian enclave in the response to the Hamas surprise assault. It has likened to the 1911 attack. Israeli media reported that more than 900 people were killed. Multi-pronged attacks by Hamas on the country's south in Gaza, where Israel has launched a withering barrage of airstrikes. 560 people were reported dead. The skies over Gaza were blackened by plumes of smoke from deafening explosion as Hamas kept launching rockets as far as Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. Hamas, whose militants surged into Israeli towns on Saturday, dragging off about 100 hostages, claimed on Monday that Israeli airstrikes had killed four of the captives. Israel said it had called up 3 lakh army revisit for its Sword of Iron campaign, and truck convoys were moving tanks to the south where its forces had dislodged the last holdouts Hamas fighters from embattled towns. We are in control of communities, said military spokesman Daniel Hagari, cautioning that some terrorists may remain after about 1,000 militants had swarmed into the region. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said Israel would impose a complete siege on the long blockaded enclave and said what this meant for its 2.3 million people. No electricity, no food, no water, no gas, it is all closed. नेक्स्ट जो है क्लाउडिया गोल्डिन wins 2023 Economics Nobel Prize for research on workplace gender gap. The Nobel Prize for Economics was awarded to Harvard University professor Claudia Goldin on Monday for her research that has advanced the understanding of the gender gap in the labor market. Mr. Goldin is just the third woman to win the prize out of 93 economics laureates. She has studied 200 years of women's participation in the workplace, showing that despite continued economic growth, women's pay did not continuously catch up to men's, and divide still exists despite women gaining higher levels of education than men. I have always been an optimistic, but when I look at the numbers, I think something has happened in America that we in 1990s our labor force participation rate for women was the highest in the world, and now it is not the highest in the world. Mrs. Golden said we have to step back and ask questions about piecing together the family, the home together with the marketplace and employment, she said, explaining the gap. Golden's research does not offer solution, but it allows a policymaker to tackle the entrenched problems, said economist Randy Marasan, a member of the Nobel Committee. She explains the source of the gap and how it changed over time and how it varies with the stage of development and therefore there is no signal policy, Mrs. Hazmal Rasam said. So it's a complicated policy question because if you do not know the underlying reasons, a certain policy won't work. However, but finally, understanding the problem and calling it by the right name, we will be able to pave a better route for forward. Mrs. Jalmarasan said. Mr. Goldin 77 said that what happens in people's home reflects what happens in the workplace with women who often taking jobs that allow them to be on call at home, work that often pays less wage, in which we can even things out of, or to create more couple equity also lead to more gender equality, she said. MS in Mrs. Goldin's analysis, a woman's role in the job market and the pay she received are not influenced just by the broad social and economic changes. They are also are determined partly by her individual decision about, for example, how much education to get. Often young girls make decision about future work by looking at their own mother's participation, each generation learning from the successes and failures of the preceding generation. Mrs. Jamal Rasan said the process of evaluating prospects as times change helps explain why change in labor market gender gaps has been so slow, she said. The next, mental health and the floundering informal worker. The theme of the World Mental Health Day, October 10 this year, is mental health as a universal human rights. A segment often overlooked when it concerns mental health is the informal worker. A study by the International Labour Organization says that 15% of working age adults globally live in a mental disorder. One on one hand, decent work influences mental health in a positive way, while on the other, unemployment or unstable or precarious employment, workplace discriminations, or poor and particularly unsafe working environment can all pose a risk to a worker's mental health. Workers in low paid, unrewarding, or insecure jobs or working in isolation are more likely to be exposed to psychosocial risk, thus compromising their mental health. The Indian experience in India's informal workforce accounts for more than 90% of the working population. These workers often operate without regulatory protection, work in unsafe working environment, endure long hours, have little high uncertainty and a deep precarity, and face mental health and limit access to mental health care. Gender disparity are also stark, with over 95% of India's working women engaged in informal, low-paying, and precarious employment, often without social protection. In addition to suffering patriarchal structures and practices in their social and familiar spaces. According to the United Nations Development Programme (UNDP), unemployment and poor quality employment have consequently been discriminatory to mental health. The Lokniti group within the Center for Study of Developing Societies, which interviewed 9,316 youth aged between 15 to 34 years across 18 states in India, has shown that they are highly susceptible to negative emotions. Youth unemployment is one of the highest in India, which, along with the stigma around unemployment, significantly impact their mental health. Moreover, an ILO report highlights how young workers are shifting to more precarious and informal work, accepting less pay and poorer working conditions out of desperation, and something giving up and existing the labor force. Altogether, the state of inequality in India report 2022 observes that the unemployment rate actually increases with educational levels, particularly for educated young women who show an unemployment rate of 42%. With this phase of demographic dividend, where half of the India's population is of working age and projected to remain so for 2 decades, it is pertinent to think about the quantity, quality of employment and long-term social security for them. India will also become an aging society in 20 years with no apparent social security roadmap, vulnerable to poor mental health. The census of India 2021-2011 shows that 33 million elderly people who are working post-retirement in informal work. Another study by ILO and on elderly employment in India shows high poverty among them in terms of economic dependency and access to financial assets. The absence of proper financial and health care security among the working elderly can severely impact their physical and mental health, aggravating their vulnerability on social security. Informal workers face mental distress due to accumulating debt and rising healthcare costs, which are intertwined and mutually reinforcing. A study by women in informal employment globalizing and organizing among informal workers in Delhi most migrants indicates that recovery post COVID-19 remains uneven among informal workers cohort. Many still report food insecurity, skipped meals, or reduced consumption as observed by the Keshav Desiraju India Mental Health Observatory. Mental health and well-being are impacted by factors such as food security, access to livelihood, and financial stability. While certain schemes have received a higher allocations this year, others such as Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme have seen their funding slashed in 2021. The National Crime Records Bureau reported that 26% of the people who died by suicide were Delhi wage earners. Employment guarantee programs can indeed improve mental health outcomes. Thus, social security can be promotional, aiming to augment income, preventive, aiming to forestall economic distress, and protective, aiming to ensure relief from external shocks. A relook at the code on social security 2020 shows how glaring issues concerning the social security of India's informal workforce still remain unheeded. While India should universalize social security, the current code does not state this as a goal. Care needs drastic improvement. Informal workers, despite their significant contribution to national income, the perennially contribution to national income are sorry, perennially exposed to various economic, physical, and mental vulnerabilities. India's budgetary allocation for mental health currently under 1% of the total health budget has over focused on the digital mental health program as the World Mental Health Report 2022 observed addressing mental health involves strengthening community-based care and people-centered, recovery-oriented, and human rights-oriented care. There is an urgent need for proactive policies to improve mental health recognition and action. This is critical in upholding the basic human rights to good health, including mental health, and in advancing to the sustainable development goals, especially SDG 3 on good health and well-being and SDG 8 on decent work for all economic growth. The end of two-state solution. The answer was always known as it The answer was always known. It was the question that had been unclear from the very beginning of the Jewish-Arab conflict. The only viable long-term solution has been to divide land between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea by creating two countries for two people. Both the Arabs and Jews have had strong self-conceptions of nationhood tied to the same land, self-conceptions that did not account for the others, but for much of this 100 years war, Jews accepted the inevitability of a partition while the Arabs rejected it. For the last few decades, however, the situation seemed to have been reversed. The one section of the Palestinian leadership, much of Arab world and all of the West seem to have agreed on two-state solution, while it is Israel that bulking at creating sovereign Palestinian state in West Bank and Gaza with its capital in East Jerusalem, understanding its region central to predicting the consequences of Hamas' recent terror attacks on Israel on that one that has killed more than 700 Israelis and provoked the Israel response. At first glance, there seem to be many stakeholders to this never-ending conflict, such as the Palestinian people, the multiple Palestinian leadership of Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and the Palestinian Authority, the Israel voters, the Israel government with its many coalitions of partners, the Arab countries, Iran and West, led by the US, and now even China, from a position of justice. One could argue that the only two stakeholders who should matter are the Palestinian and Israel people, but as a matter of real politics, the key stakeholder has always been the Israel public. This is because without the acquisitions is of the more powerful Israel, no solution is possible. As since Israel is a democracy, without the agreement of the Israel public, no Israeli acquiescence is possible. So the only question to ask is, will the Hamas attack push the Israeli public into creating a sovereign Palestinian state? Some opinion makers think Some opinion makers think so. They feel that Israel's trauma from Hamas strikes will finally make the people understand that a sovereign Palestinian state is a prerequisite for peace, but it is more likely that Israel will come to the opposite conclusion that a two-state solution, one where a Palestinian state will have to have its own army and security, will empower Palestinians to attack Israel even more effectively. They fear that an independent Palestinian will behave as Hamas has been doing all doing all along. Hamas does not accept Israel's right to exist in any shape. It attacked Israel on its southern border that will remain with Israel in any eventual peace deal, and killed and abducted innocent civilians and religious settlers occupying the West Bank. The attack was directed at the very existence of Israel as a Jewish state that supposedly moderate Palestinian Authority in the West Bank has supported. Hamas will only highlight, and Israel fears that an end to the conflict will not be a Palestinian and Jewish state living side by side, but a single Palestinian state between the river and the sea. This is not a semantic difference. A citizen may accept the division of her country under some circumstances, but in no circumstances will she accept its alienation. The central obstructions to a two-state solution has not been the Israel occupation of the West Bank and Gaza. There was, after all, a murderous conflict between the two sides even before the occupation. In 1967, the main roadblock has been the inability of the Palestinians to convince Israel's voters that if given sovereignty in some part of the land, they would leave the Jews alone in the other. There has always been a radical Israel fringe unwilling to see the Palestinian as a people deserving a state. These religious bigot had historically been on the margins of Israel's politics. Today they are key member of the ruling coalition, reflecting a widening distrust among Israeli voters of Palestinian and partners in any eventual place. Lessons gleaned. The lessons Palestine have learned from their decades long occupation and daily humiliations has been that Israeli civilians need to share their pain to force them to reduce it, but from the Israeli perspective, every wave of violence against their civilian community has made them less likely to risk ending the occupation of a Palestinian. The recent terror attacks will be further Israel suspicious that if this is what Hamas can do with a tiny bit of power, what would they do Israel with sovereign state power? Hamas' unprecedented attack will reinforce among Israel say to only two options. They feel they can either endure the continuing more moral shame and ruling over another people, or they can risk their very existence by creating a sovereign Palestinian state that might then wipe out Israel as Jewish state. Given the power imbalance between Israel and the rest of the Arab world, there is only one way for Palestinians to get their sovereign state, that will be to convince Israel's voter that an eventual Palestinian to get their sovereign state. This will be to convince Israel voters that an eventual Palestine will live peacefully next to Israel. But for this generation, Israelis who are scared by images of kidnapped 84-year-old grandmother being paraded in a golf cart by Hamas, the immortality of occupying another people will be preferable to risking the annihilation of one's own people. The only way forward is for Palestinian leadership that can credibly signal to the Israel people that it will not use the freedom it's gained from any peace deal to hurt Israel the respect for that same deal. The next way the state of India's schedule areas. India's 705 scheduled tribes communities making up 8.6% of the country's population live in 26 states and 6 union territories. Article 244 pertaining to the administration of scheduled and tribal areas is the single most important constitutional provision for STs. Article 244 clause 1 provides for the application of the fifth schedule provision of the scheduled areas notified in any state other than Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram. The sixth schedule applies to these states as per Article 244 clause 2. What are the scheduled areas? Scheduled areas cover 11.3% of the India's land areas and have been notified in 10 states: Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Odisha, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Himachal Pradesh. In 2015, Kerala proposed to notify 2,133 habitation farm gram panchayat and two wards in 5 districts as scheduled areas. In 1995, the Bhuria community, the Bhuria committee constituted to recommend provisions for the extension of Panchayat Raj to scheduled areas recommended including these villages, but this is yet to be done. This absence of viable ST majority administrative units has been the standard with bureaucrats' response and argument that has been also used to demand the de-notification of parts of scheduled areas where STs are now a minority due to influx of non-tribal individuals. However, scheduled areas governed the President of India notifies India's scheduled areas state with scheduled areas need to constitute a tribal advisory council with up to 20 ST members. They will advise the governor on matters referred to them regarding ST welfare. The governor will then submit a report every year to the president regarding the administration of scheduled areas. The national government can give directions to the state regarding the administration of the scheduled areas. The governor can repeal and amend any law enacted by the parliament or any state legislative assembly in its application to the scheduled areas of that state. To the governor can make also regulation for scheduled areas, especially to prohibit or restrict the transfer of tribal land by or among the members of STs and regulate the allotment and land to STs and money lending to STs. These powerful provisions, authority and special responsibility vested with the governor with the president's oversight have largely remained a dead letter except briefly in Maharashtra from 2014 to 2020. It was only when the parliament enacted the provisions in the various laws applicable to scheduled areas, including the Panchayat extension to scheduled areas act or PESA in 1996, that the intent of the constitution and the constituent assembly actually came alive. State panchayat laws had empowered the elected panchayat bodies and rendering the gram sabha But Pesa empowered the Gram Sabha to exercise substantial authority to direct democracy and stated that structures at higher level do not assume the power of the authority to the Gram Sabha. Then next we have multimodal what is the multimodal artificial intelligence. For any curious about the next frontier of AI model would look like all the signs are pointing towards a multimodal system where users can engage with AI in several ways. People observe ideas and from context by drawing meaning from images, sounds, and videos and text around them. A chatbot, even though it can write competent properly and pass the US bar, hardly matches up to the fullness of the cognition. Or if AI system are to be if AI system are to be as close as the likeness of human mind as possible. The natural course would have to be multimodal, a new race open shop. Another good will take race sets of leading AI companies are already playing catch ups on September 25. ChatGPT maker OpenAI announced that it had enabled its GPT 3.5 and GPT 4 models to study images and analyze them in words, while its mobile apps will have speech synthesis so that people can have a full-fledged conversation with the chatbot. The Microsoft backed company had promised multimodality in March during the release of ChatGPT or GPT-4 and kept the addition on bench on back burner. However, the company has rushed the release after a reported the information revealed that Google's new yet to be released multimodal large language model called Gemini was already being tested in a bunch of companies. The report also stated that Google had an easy advantage over competitors in the multimodal world because of its readily available bank of images and video via its search engine and YouTube. But OpenAI is moving fast to make inroads. The company is actively hiring multimodal experts with pay packages up to a hefty 3,70,000 dollar per year. It is also reportedly working on a new project called Gobi, which is expected to be multimodal AI system for scratch unlikely the attributive model. How does multimodality works? Multimodality itself is not a novel thing that the past couple of years have seen a stream of multimodal AI system being released like OpenAI text to image model DALLE upon which ChatGPT's vision's capabilities are based is a multimodal AI model that was released in 2021. DALL-E is built on another multimodal text to image model called Clip that OpenAI released the same year. DALL-E is in fact the model which kickstarted the generative AI boom and is underpinned with the same concept that runs other popular AI image generators like Stable Diffusion and Midjourney, linking together text and images in the training stage. The system looks for patterns in visual data that can connect with the data of the image description. This enables this system to generate images according to the text prompts that users enters. For multimodal audio system, the training work in the same way. GPT's voice processing capabilities are based on its own open source speech to text translation model called Whisper, which was released in September last year. Whisper can recognize speech in audio and translate it into simple language text. Application of multimodal AI. Some of the earlier multimodal system combined computer vision and natural language processing models or audio and text together to perform some of the simpler but rather important functions like automatic image caption generation, etc. And even if these multimodal systems were not an all-powerful model like GPT-4 running for ultimate dream of artificial general intelligence. They carried enough value to address very real world problems that in 2020 Meta was working on a multimodal system to automatically detect hateful memes on Facebook. Meanwhile, Google researchers published a paper in 2021 about the multimodal system they had built to predict the next lines of dialogue in a video, but there are other more complex systems still in the works. In May this year, Meta announced a new open source AI multimodal system called ImageMind that had many models, text, visual data, audio, temperature, and movement readings. In the blog post, Meta had speculated that future multimodal models could add other sensory data to them, like touch, speech, smell, and brain fMRI signals. The idea behind this is to have future AI system cross-reference this data in similar way that current AI systems do not for text input. For instance, a visual reality device in future might be able to generate not just the visual and the sound of the environment, but also other physical elements. A simulation of a beach could have not just the waves crashing on the shore, but also the wind blowing, the temperature there. If that sound too futuristic, that are other uses that can be found closer to the world we live in now, like in autonomous driving and robotics. Other industries like medicines are inherently multimodal, according to a post by Google Research. Processing CT scans or identifying rare genetic variations all need AI systems that can analyze complex data sets of images and then respond in plain words. Google researchers' health AI sections have been working at this is for some time now, have been released papers around what the ideal method is to integrate multimodal AI system in this field. AI models that perform speech translations are another obvious segments for multimodality. Google translates uses multiple models as do others, like Meta's seamless M40 model, which was released in last month. The model can perform text to speech, to text, speech to speech, and text to text translations for around 100 languages, the company said. Smart fans along the Myanmar border. An advanced smart fencing system of 100 kilometers along the Myanmar border is in the pipeline to strengthen the existence of a surveillance system. 2022 and 23 annual report of the Ministry of Home Affairs published last week said unfriendly borders and unregulated migrations from Myanmar have been attributed as some of the factors responsible for the ethnic violence in Manipur. The report stated that in 2022, out of the 201 insurgency-related incidents registered in all the northeast states, as many as 137 incidents were registered in Manipur. Manipur is affected by the activities of Meitei and Nagas, Kuki, Juni, Amar, in insurgent groups. A total of 23 UG underground outfit under two conglomerates and 8 and Kuki national organization are under suspension of operations SOO factors with the government of India since August 2008. The report said the MHA said that a free movement regime exists between India and Myanmar under the FMR. Every member of field tribes who is either a citizen of India or a citizen of Myanmar and who is a resident of any area within 16 kilometers on either side of the Indo-Myanmar border can cross the border on production of a border pass 1 year validity issued by the content competent authority and can stay up to 2 weeks per visit. The report said the Manipur government has suspended the FMR since 2020 post-COVID-19 pandemic. Manipur Chief Minister Biren Singh said on September 23 that he had urged the MHA to cancel the FMR along the Myanmar border and complete its fencing. India shares to 1,643 km border with the Myanmar. Out of 1643 km demarcation of 1472 km has been completed, the report said. The next urban unemployment rates. Urban unemployment rates dropped to 6.6% in quarter one. The periodic labor force survey carried out by the National Central Survey Office (NSSO) has reported that unemployment rate in urban areas of the country has shown a decrease during the period April-June 2023. Similarly, the labor force participation rate for persons aged 15 and above the worker population ratio has also improved during the period. The National Survey processed details from the 5639 first stage sampling units and 1,67,916 people from 44,190 urban houses. The LFPR in urban areas increased from 47.5% in April-June 2022 to 48.8% in April-June 2023. While it hovered around 73.5% for men during this period, for women, the LFBR increased from 20.9% to 23.2% during this period. The Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation said in a release here on Monday the WPR in urban areas increased from 43.9% in April-June 2022 and to 45.5% for persons aged 15 and above. For men, it increased from 68.3% to 69.2%, and for women, it increased from 18.9% to 21.1% during this period. The next we have decreasing trend. The PLFS claimed a de- decreasing trend in unemployment rate. UR for persons aged 15 and above, UR in urban areas decreased from 7.6% in April-June 2022 to 6.6% in April-June 2023 per person of age 15 years and above. The PLFS report said for men it decreased 7.1% to 5.9% during this period, and for women it decreased from 9.5% to 9.1%. Then next a key indicator, the center also claimed improvement in key labor market indicator in urban areas compared with those in pre-pandemic period April-June 2018 to October-December 2019. The LFPR ranged from 46.2% to 47.8% during the pre-pandemic period, and in the latest report it was 48.8%. The WPR was between 41.8% and 44.1% before the pandemic, and now it is 45.5%. The unemployment rate ranged between 7.8% and 9.7% during the pre-pandemic period, and at the latest survey it was 6.6%, which according to the center is lower than the unemployment rates observed in the quarters covered in the pre-pandemic period. The next is Sri Lanka to take over Sri Lanka to take over as chair of Indian Ocean Dream Association. Several foreign ministers including those of India, Bangladesh, Mauritius, Iran, Malaysia, and South Africa will participate in the Indian Ocean Dream Association (IORA) Council of Minister meeting in the Colombo in October 11, 2023. According to the Sri Lankan government, which is preparing to take over as chair of the regional grouping this week, the Council of Minister meeting in Colombo will see the participation of 16 ministers, including the Foreign Minister of Bangladesh, India, Iran, Mauritius, Malaysia, South Africa, as well as ministerial and senior level participation from Australia, Colombo, France, Indonesia, Kenya, Madagascar, Maldives, Mozambique, Oman, Seychelles, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Somalia, Tanzania, Thailand, United Arab Emirates, and Yemen member countries, and from China, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Germany, Italy, Japan, Republic of Korea, Russia, Turkey, and United Kingdom and United States of America dialogue partners. A statement from President Ranil Singhe's office said, Sri Lanka's Foreign Minister Ali Sabri will chair the council, the highest decision-making body of IORA, taking over from the Foreign Minister of Bangladesh, the current chair for the next 2 years. The minister will deliberate on ways to cooperate on six priority areas identified by the IORA, including trade and investment, maritime safety and security, fisheries management, disaster risk management, and blue economy. The council will be preceded by 25th meeting of the Committee of IORA senior officials on October 9 and 10. Membership expanded. Established in 1997 as an intergovernmental organization of states on the rim of Indian Ocean, the IORA has members from Africa, West Asia, South Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Oceania. The association's membership has expanded to 23 member states and 11 dialogue partners. Significantly, Sri Lanka, which is frequently confronted with competing strategic interests of India and China in the Indian Ocean region, participated in the forum along with others from the region, including Pakistan, Myanmar, Bangladesh, Nepal, and Afghanistan. Chinese vessels. The IORA forum also coincides with reports with a possible visit of China research vessel C Yan 6 to Sri Lanka. India and the US have reportedly raised the matter with Sri Lanka, while the foreign minister Sabri in a recent interview said the government was yet to clear the Chinese vessel's visit. Meanwhile, India and Sri Lanka will launch a long-pending ferry service connecting Nagapattinam in Tamil Nadu with Santurai in the northern province of Sri Lanka this week as part of a country's decision to enhance connectivity. And next, the scientists untangle mystery of the earliest galaxies. Since the beginning operations last year, the James Webb Space Telescope has provided an astonishing glimpse of the early history of our universe, spotting a collection of galaxies dating to the enigmatic epoch called cosmic dawn. But the existence of what appear to be massive and mature galaxy during the universe's infancy defied expect, expectations too big and too soon. The left scientists scrambling for an explanation while questioning the basic tenet of cosmology, the science of origin and development of the universe. A new study may resolve the mystery without ripping of the textbook. The researchers used computer simulations to model how the earliest galaxies evolved, concluding that the stars' formations may have unfolded differently in these galaxies in the past few hundred million years. After the Big Bang event 13.8 billion years ago than it does in large galaxy populating the cosmos today. Star formation in the early galaxies. Astronomers can surely measure how bright those eight galaxies are because photons, particles of light, are directly detectable and countable, whereas it is much more difficult to tell whether those galaxies are really big or massive. They appear to be big because they are observed to be bright, said Gu Chao Sun, a postdoctoral fellow in astronomy and at Northwestern University in Illinois and a lead author of the study published this week in Astrophysical Journal Letters. Webb launched in 2021 and operationalized in 2022 detected about 10 times more very bright galaxies from cosmic dawn than anticipated based on most theoretical models. In our new paper, we show quantitatively using our simultaneous simulations that that the burst of stars formation produced flashes of the light that can explain the very bright galaxies observed by the Webb Northwestern University astrophysicist and study signal author Claude Andre Houcher Gilure said, and the reason that this is so significant is that we explain these very bright galaxies without having to break the standard cosmological model. In contrast to forming stars at a nearly constant rate, the star formation activity in those early galaxies went on and off with some large fluctuations over time. Swan said this in turn drives large variation in their brightness because the light seen by the telescope like JWST was emitted by the young stars formed in those galaxies. So friends, this is all for today and we will meet from tomorrow onwards with new news articles from the Hindu newspaper. So thank you a lot. Thanks all.